Welcome everyone to yet another episode of Takeover United Pod, where we take over your weekend with all things Manchester United. But it so happens that this week is not that depressing. It's actually a little bit upbeat. We had two games this weekend. We played Arsenal last Sunday, in which we drew 1-1 in a game which we arguably should have won. And then we played Real Sociedad midweek, which was again another good game on the backs of a Bruno Fernandes hat trick. United won that game 4-1. Again, a very, very convincing victory, which we haven't seen it in a while. It's been a while since United has had a convincing victory where they put their mark on the game. We always see this, 1-love, 2-1 or 1-1 kind of games a lot of the time. Or we lose 5-love. But we don't see a game where we win 4-1. So I'd say all in all a good weekend. The game against Arsenal as well, a 1-1 draw. Many had predicted that game to be, kind of a drubbing for United, that Arsenal will completely destroy us. But as I predicted last week that it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and I got it exactly down to a science last weekend. I said United will score first because, Arsenal take us easy and then we'll get complacent, concede an equalizer, and then both teams will just kind of, play out the remaining minutes. It was actually a little better than that. We actually tried to win at the end after the Arsenal equalizer. But again, I would say still, regardless of the result, I would say two very good games. And I know Ruben Amorim has been making a lot of tweaks to his system. So yeah, Somdeep, why don't we start off? What do you think? How did Ruben Amorim improve his system this week, which led to us, getting this, a victory and a draw, but a draw against a very good top six side?
I think top six is appropriate because they're out of the title race, aren't they?
Yeah, bye Arsenal. You haven't won anything in 20 years. That continues to be true.
Yeah. No, they have won an FA Cup, but that was 10 years ago. Oh, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Been a while.
Yeah.
I think Amram made a few changes. I want to talk about his out of possessions setup first because I think that was a little different. This is a formula he often falls back in, bigger games in. He opted for a 5-4-1 block, basically. And what he does in big games is he fully commits 5 men to the last line. You can probably see it on this other screen that we're looking at.
Oh yeah, let me share it.
Yeah. This is from John McKenzie on Twitter. He's a pretty awesome Arsenal analyst for The Athletic. So United commit 5 men to the last line, as you can see. We typically have a block of I don't want to say a flat 4, but a line of 4 forms in some way.
Yeah.
And then you have the striker up top. So this was particularly effective against Arsenal for a couple of reasons that John also highlights in the thread, but we can look into. The main reason being Arsenal didn't play with a recognized striker. Right, they don't have Kai Havertz, they don't have Gabriel Jesus due to injury. So
is Kai Havertz a recognized striker?
I do think he's a pretty good threat in how Arsenal play because he has more goals than our strikers.
No, that's a low bar. But my point was he's not. I don't feel like he's a striker. He more feels like a Zirkzee to me, a 9.5. More of the off the ball.
He's very good at like working like a false 9.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people refer to him as that as well. So it's interesting. Like I think Kai Havertz has all the qualities and build up of acting like a false 9. In terms of he can stitch play together, arrive late in the box. I think his hold up play is really good, and that's what Arsenal really needed in games like this. So I think they missed his hold up play. I'm not saying Marino was bad, but he's obviously not going to bring something on the level of Kai Havertz. Right. The absences of Saka and Kai Havertz meant Arsenal were anyway a little limited in attack. Because I feel a lot of Mikel Arteta's attacks come from the individual qualities of players in the final third. Like there's a lot of expectation on Saka, on Odegaard, on Trossard to do things. And if those things don't happen, their attack doesn't always shine. The problem against United trying that is there are 5 men at the back, so you have to rely on more than individual quality. You have to commit extra numbers up front to get something out of it. And I didn't feel Arsenal fully did that. It's probably understandable given they were away. That's a logical step from Arteta.
Yeah.
The other changes that Ruben Amorim made, I think where he got it right was, or he kind of had to do, was he conceded possession. We only had 30% of the ball, 32% of the ball at Old Trafford. But he controlled the game without having the ball. 5-4-1 mid to low block, trying to hit Arsenal on the counter. He made a couple of interesting changes. I think 5 that I can think of. One was one was the out of possession setup. The 5-4-1 block, a bit different from his usual 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, 5-2-3. Sorry. The second was in possession. We typically build with a double pivot, right? But he opted to have a single pivot and created a line of 3 in front of it. The advantage that gave was Zirkzee would drop into midfield and we'd kind of have a 4-man midfield in a diamond shape at times, and that really helped us build up attacks. The third really interesting change, possibly my favorite change of the game that he made, was he put Alejandro Garnacho on the right side. And we've spoken about this on the pod before. We lack natural width on the right wing. The wing backs there, Dalo and Mazraoui, are both more comfortable coming inside than staying outside. So we proposed earlier that maybe if we play Garnacho in the right 10, he can kind of occupy the wide zones and allow the wing backs to invert. And that's exactly what happened in this game. I think Garnacho played exceptionally well. He kept trying to hit the touchline again and again and get a cross in for whoever was in the box. And a lot of, I think one of our goals came from that, and a lot of our chances came from that repeated run and cross motion that he did. So that was excellent and a good switch from Amorim that maybe Arsenal weren't expecting because typically Garnacho plays on the other side. So yeah, I think off the top of my head, those 3 changes greatly influenced the game. The other factor that played a role and that I want to highlight is, unfortunately, we lost Lenny Yoro to injury at halftime, and he was playing really well, so that was a big loss. And in stepped Aiden Heaven, bought for 1 million from Arsenal, from the Arsenal, and what an outstanding debut. I was worried that Arsenal obviously tried to pick on that side. Martinelli came on the right wing and they tried to isolate Heaven a few times. And Martinelli did get in behind him once, which drew a good save from Onana. But other than that, I thought that was a very, very composed performance from Aiden. He looked completely composed and not at all overawed by the occasion. Debut in a derby. He handled the pace of Martinelli, which was great to see because we have a wide CB who can deal with pace now. And I love seeing that. Sometimes that can be a weakness in Licha's game, but Heaven was very comfortable covering ground. And he looked very comfortable on the ball as well. Again, I have to tip my hat to Arsenal's academy they clearly produce players who are good on the ball.
Yeah, that's been an Arsenal trademark, right? Good on the ball, off the ball movement always.
Yeah, my desire is to be snarky, but the reality is they do produce players who are very good and have a lot of technical quality on the ball, whether it's Saka, Nwaneri, Max Dauman, our next target, I hope, and Aiden Heaven. So, excellent performance for him. And I think he also helped the game in the sense that they didn't get any joy down that left-hand side. And he gave a lot of freedom to the left wing back to attack.
Yeah.
So... good decisions by Ruben Amorim because he trusted a young player pretty much making his debut in such a crunch situation. That shows bravery, and that's exactly what we need more of from him. What do you think, Rohan?
Yeah, what do you think of our centre-backs, Rohan? We have 2 young, good centre-backs in Lenny Yoro and Aiden Heaven. So are you excited for our back pair?
I I am really very excited because like Haven came in like I think he came in at halftime, right?
Hmm.
And he like for such a young kid, he's like he hasn't even played like too much senior football. Like he was in the academy, we
No,
signed
he
him.
played one Carabao Cup game with Arsenal. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Like you just
Yeah.
he just played like one game, and the way he came in and the confidence that he had on the ball and off the ball as well, in such a big game where we are looking for points and we need someone to step in, especially after Lisandro's injury. We were constantly questioning like who's going to play that LCB role, and Euro came in and he put in a shift like a couple of games ago. But even then, when he was injured, like someone needed to step up, and I think for a young talent like him to come in and put in the performance like he did, even against Sociedad, I mean, it's really exciting to see where he goes from here now because I think we do have a player on our hands, and I think we'll need to carefully take care of like how we develop him in the future. Like of course, like I think even Ruben in his interview had said that we do have a really good player, and because he's young, so introducing him gradually to games is very important. And I think that's the right approach from Amorim as well, but really brave from him as well to like put him in the on the bench and then like sub him on later on, and give him the chance that he needs. And it was really positive. And even Euro is like, I know he's from like the French league, right? And it takes time for any other players to develop. So he's quite young as well. So I'm pretty excited, and he's slowly we are seeing the quality of Euro as well. In games, he's been asked to play like both RCB and LCB at times, and I think we have really good pairing there, like for our right and the left side. Definitely excited to watch them
Yeah,
perform.
and also, I mean, credit where it's due. I mean, these are like two very good transfers, right? Lenny Euro and Aiden Heaven. I know Euro. How much did it cost? I think Euro was a bit expensive, right? Also, very very highly rated.
60 million.
Yeah,
I think 55 million or
yeah,
so.
55
yeah,
million.
But I mean, he's one of the most promising
right, right.
CBs from last season.
No,
So he always
totally.
was going to be expensive.
Yeah, no, I agree. And at least, I mean, we have bought expensive young players in the past who
Yeah,
didn't work out, like a certain Jaden. But yeah, Lenny Oro, I think at least I know we rag on Ineos a lot on this stream, but I think for once they have done some good profiling, and also Aiden Heaven for 1 million seems like a total steal now. Like this guy,
yeah,
the only game he started in the senior team for Arsenal was an EFL Cup game against Preston North End, right? Like that's like I don't even know which league they play in. That's how the bad they are. And
yeah,
here he comes, debuts against Arsenal, and then in Europa starts against freaking Real Sociedad, man, who's like a very good team, and just holds it. Like Sociedad also found it very hard to go past Heaven. So yeah, I'm really excited. But
And
yeah, good.
yeah, and I just like on that note, I do want to highlight like you can see the graphic again, thanks to John McKenzie, that and the Athletic,
Yeah.
where Arsenal channeled almost 50% of all their attacks through touches on the right side. So that was a theme. I think one, maybe they were targeting first Euro and then Heaven, maybe. But also the fact that Arsenal as a team tend to have a very right-sided bias. They typically have Saka and Odegaard near those
Yeah.
areas, so it's frequently a theme for them. But against United, and what's interesting is that uh, when they were in settled position, United were often in a back five, right? So Dorgu and Heaven or Dorgu and Euro would be manning that area. So that's actually three of our youngest players on that side. Like three players without much PL experience, young in age, and two of them have just arrived. So there's definitely something to be built on there, and I said it before. I want to see more brave decisions like this from Amorim. I thought, like, credit to him that he made those calls. He could have chosen to play Dallo on that side, but he didn't.
There's
Although I'm
also
not sure.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not entirely sure if Dorgo was there for the Arsenal game. I might be misremembering.
I think Dorgo was suspended. If
So,
I'm not wrong.
Yeah. But either way, I mean, the centre backs were our younger ones, so
yeah.
they had a lot of isolation on that side to deal with. That was
Yeah,
great.
we didn't play Dorgo that game. It was.
Yeah, I think it was Dallo on the.
Yeah, it was Dallo. Yeah.
Okay, apologies. Yeah, I confused it with the Sociedad game. But in a way, if you think about it, that just represents a bigger defensive challenge for Heaven and Euro, because Dallo's defending on the left side is not always great.
Yeah.
Having said that, because I'm being unfair to Dallo, I noticed this throughout the game. He was very, very touch tight on Ethan Nwaneri. He was very careful. Maybe because as a response to knowing, his obvious attacking talent. So I noticed that he was quick to jump onto Nwaneri and sort of track his runs and be very close to him. And he actually made a lot of great defensive tackles on Nwaneri and won the ball pretty
Yeah.
easily. I felt multiple times. Where he screwed up was his second touch after winning the ball. He often lost the ball in trying to initiate counterattacks. But it was one of Dallo's better games in terms of individual duels. Sorry.
Yeah. No, agreed. Yeah, Dallo definitely, I think, had a decent week. Again, in both. Did he play Sociedad? Did he play Sociedad right on the right side? But yeah, also another player that has had a resurgence this week is the legendary Casemiro. What do you think he did different, Rohan? He was obviously partnered, I think, in both games by Bruno in midfield. So obviously, because we don't even have midfielders fit right now. So Bruno has been playing that CM role, and yeah, what has suddenly unlocked for Casemiro? How has he become? Like, he had a very good couple of games this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously experienced enough to know what is required of him there, like in that pivot. He brings that with him. One of the things that really, like against Sociedad also, one of the things that really helps is uh, this is not the Premier League. That this is mostly like this is Sociedad is the Spanish team, right? And like one of the things that helps is the pace of the game, which Casemiro can play in. I think for some, because I think with the problem with him is in the Premier League, right? I don't think he has the brains to you know uh, play well in midfield, like make the right decisions and uh, find those passes, those incisive passes that we need. But I think the Premier League, the pace, because of the pace, he doesn't have the legs anymore because due to his age and everything. So that is one factor. But when you are playing a comparatively like a slower team, I wouldn't say like that, but when you're playing against a team like Sociedad and everything who are more calculative and less spacey than let's say like a Crystal Palace or less aggressive. So I think that really helps Casemiro to adapt much easier.
Yeah.
That is what my feeling is.
Yeah,
And
but to be
I think
fair,
this game also.
he had a good game with Arsenal too. Casemiro, he looked very good in the midfield as well.
Yeah, but then there's also the fact that also Bruno he's having a good partnership with Bruno, right? He has a good understanding with Bruno Fernandes as well. While Bruno is dropping so deeper in, he's playing there, and they have a very good shared understanding. Like if you put like another like an Ugarte or a Mainu to his, then definitely that dynamic will also might not work as good as where Casemiro and Bruno are playing. So that is what I saw. Like the situation right now is okay. People are injured. We don't have Ugarte. Just like I think Ugarte has come back, right? Or he on the like uh, he was injured too. Mino is also injured. So I think
Yeah, I don't think
his
he's back
partnership
yet. I
with
think only Collier came back.
yeah. So that's the thing. His partnership with Bruno is good. His understanding is good. Also, like we had Ericsson as well. So Ericsson and Casemiro also link up really well. So that really helps us. We have more time on the ball. So that really helps us make more better decisions in that thing, right? And even when we faced Arsenal, right? Arsenal in the first half, we in the first half we didn't necessarily have much of possession. We were as Somdeep said, we were playing a 5-4-1 block, and we didn't have too much. We were much more on the back foot in the first half. Later on, as the game settled down and uh, we got more into the game in the second half, especially after Bruno's goal, we got some confidence to go in and really try and win the game, especially in the later stages of the game. I think that part was much more settling for him, and then we had Collier in as well. So I think out and out, Casemiro can give us some of these performances like in between. If you expect him to do this like completely like for 5 games straight, I don't think we'll have that
Oh
same
yeah.
kind of output. But yeah, definitely like when we have games like especially like I think Europa League, if we have someone like a Sociedad, a team like that, I think Casemiro can do a job there definitely. And I think that really helped him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And it's also good to see Casemiro have a couple of good games, considering the pedigree and the legendary career he has had. But yeah, I think before we move on, another player I wanted to touch on him. Before we praise Bruno to the heavens, I do want to ask you, Sondeep, what do you think of Højlund's performance against Real Sociedad? He didn't score, to be fair, but he did assist a goal, and overall he had a very good game. And even Bruno called that out in his post-match interview that Højlund did everything except score and how good a game he had. So do you think we might be seeing a belated resurgence from Højlund, or do you think it's a flash in the pan?
Uh, firstly, I think he was in the Sociedad game specifically. I think he was excellent.
Yeah.
There were a number of reasons for it. One being, like you can see in the screenshot below, but even in settled possession, right? Sociedad were leaving a decent amount of space behind their high line, and Højlund shines in those situations, and he definitely made the runs for a change to exploit it. So that was great. I think what really shone for me on the night was that he played very confidently, and maybe this is a theme with him in Europe because he's not really struggled in European games for Manchester United. He has good numbers and performances there, so this was keeping in line with that. He had a great performance. He had the assist with an excellent touch to kind of cut back on the other side and then pass it in. And I don't think the defender was anticipating that touch from Højlund. He also won the penalty because Sociedad centre back plowed through him as he was about to, I think, tap in a goal. So he played really well. I don't think I have enough information yet to know if this is going to be a resurgence. It's just one game and it's in Europe. He scored a brace against Bayern, right? So this isn't exactly out of syllabus for him. In terms of things he specifically did better, I thought he looked more confident and his hold-up play was more assured. Like when he was receiving the ball, he made sure to complete the pass while laying it off, and he seemed to have worked a little bit more on where his teammates are positionally. So those advantages showed up. I also felt that Sociedad were bad at dealing with him. They weren't physical enough. They didn't try to draw him into duels like Premier League centre backs do, which seems to affect him more. And he thrived on that lack of attention as well. Another good thing he did was he was good at picking up runs into wide channels. He didn't just stay central. So maybe that gave him a little more confidence to explore and play passes. I would still, on the basis of the whole season, say our primary target for the summer should still be a goal scorer. Because this team lacks established goal scorers. But at least performances like these make me feel Højlund might have it in him to be the backup to that primary goal scorer, which is probably how he should have been recruited in the first place.
Yeah. No, agreed. I mean, it's what we said a lot on this pod and even in our conversations off the pod, that Højlund should have been more like a upcoming backup striker to craft his trade rather than just be thrust into the spotlight as the main man for a club like Manchester United, who sure are now not playing well, but it's still a lot of pressure for somebody who was 20 years when he came to the club. It's an insane amount of pressure for a 20-year-old to say, hey, lead the line and score goals. But one player who has thrived in the pressure is our captain, Bruno Fernandes. What a week he has had. He scored a hat-trick against Real Sociedad. He scored the only goal against Arsenal. That was a very good goal as well. Against Sociedad, sure, 2 penalties, but yeah, he's been just spot on those penalties for the time he has been here. And he's playing in midfield, Bruno Fernandes, and he's dropped deeper than before because we do have a lot of, especially with this formation, we can't fit in all our attacking talent. So Bruno has dropped deeper, especially with all the midfield injuries we have. So he plays in center midfield. You see him frequently dropping deep and going even to the freaking center backs and defending the ball. I think his Arsenal game, his goal was a free kick, correct? So what can Bruno not do? I mean, the slander that he gets is just so annoying considering how much it does for this club.
I think at this point the only thing Bruno can't do is impress Roy Keane. Because he's pretty much done everything else. I remember there was a season, maybe was it the year 2020 or the year 2021, where about like a certain number of months into the year, he was tied with Messi for goals and assists at the top of the table for the year. And I remember thinking at the time, like, whoa, like that's crazy, because he was still playing for United at the time. And that's its own difficulty level. He's been excellent in that role. I think on the pod we raised concerns earlier about some of his tracking of runners and whatnot in the more defensive areas. But I feel like he's really adapted to that part of his game and still somehow continued making runs into the opposition box to score. Boundless energy and work rate. Another thing I feel like he's added is, or maybe he's benefited from Amorim changing, is in build-up, Bruno isn't expected to be like static in the double pivot anymore. He definitely moves up and forms a line with typically Garnacho and Zirkzee. So he's often playing like a 8 or a 10 in build-up, which really suits him. It brings out his best qualities in him. And in that situation, Amorim's system suddenly is beneficial for him because now he has Højlund in front of him to pass to, Zirkzee and Garnacho occupying either half space near him, and then he has Dorgu's width on the left to find with passes, right? And whoever's playing the right wing back, he has their width to benefit from as well. So I think this little tweak where Amorim now builds up in a 3-1-6 shape with Bruno kind of pulling some strings as well has benefited the whole team. Everyone's kind of in positions where they shine better, especially our best player now. It's a bit more risky, this build up, because you're kind of taking away one extra man from your settled build up. But I noticed that the way Ruben's been compensating for this is he has Garnacho pull wide on the right side, and he keeps the whoever's the right wing back, he keeps him a little more uh, retreated and a little closer to the rest of the defense to kind of cover for counter attacks and stuff. So that's how he's been balancing this change. But yeah, Bruno, like I tactics and analysis can't explain a player like that. This is just a top player who
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if the club is 17th or second or 14th, he's going to perform at a certain level and just make things happen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
he's amazing.
also another thing I've seen with Bruno is that it doesn't matter what the score is of the game. We can be leading 3-0 or we can be trailing 0-4. Bruno is always running. He's going to make that effort to get the ball. He's like that kind of guy who thinks with 5 minutes left in FIFA you can overturn a 0-4 deficit and win the game 5-4. Bruno is that kind of man. He just never gives up running or trying to make something happen on the pitch. And yeah, I think it just question for you both. Do you think there's a player like that today in modern football in any club? A player like Bruno who just is just giving 100% every minute of the game. And with that fitness, never misses a game, never gets subbed off,
Uh,
barely gets injured.
I mean, to my mind comes Declan Rice. I think he's similar. I noticed this against Arsenal. I thought Rice, after David Raya, I thought Rice was Arsenal's best player.
Yeah.
Raya has to be like commended. Like he pulled off some really impressive saves.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I noticed that Rice has that similar boundless energy. He defends their box, attacks the opponent box really well. Uh, and I think he does well in that box to box role. But the one problem at Arsenal that I notice is Rice keeps making runs into the opposition's box, like not their box, I mean the midfield box, between the lines. But for whatever reason, his teammates don't pass to him typically when he's between the lines, and he ends up looking frustrated and throwing his hands, saying when the ball goes in another direction. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like Declan Rice is maybe the closest player of that energy I can think of in the Premier League, who's energetic but effective as
Yeah.
well at both ends.
And well,
And
what
it's
do you know?
interesting 'cause
He scored the goal.
yeah, like I just realized, but he's the one who scored the goal, and I think he played well. I really like he was the one player who I thought was creating difficult situations for us, but Arsenal didn't really capitalize on it as a team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All in all, a good week. And yeah, before we move on to our next segment, Rohan, question for you. We have Mason Mount coming back. Maybe plays for 10 minutes of a game, whatever, before getting injured again. But where would you put Mason Mount in this side? In Amorim's 3-4-2-1, where would you play him? I personally feel he can be a very, very useful player because he's one of the few press resistant players that we have. I think along with Zirkzee has shown a lot of good hold up and press resistance too. So where would you play Mason Mount in this lineup? Who are you dropping?
For Mason Mount, right? Like, I I I agree with you. Like, I would play him in the number 10 role, right 10. Left him, like, I would like rotate him with Garnacho. Um, I think Zirkzee is doing really well at the left 10 position.
Yeah.
So I would like to keep him there, like continue playing him there. And I would definitely like to see Mount at the right 10 role. I think he's really good. Like, if whether we want to press high or we want someone to drop back into midfield, I think he has that kind of energy. Like, when fit, he has that energy to cover ground, which is a really good asset to have, like especially in case of Mount. I think he has that definitely, and he's good at he's good at playing in those half spaces that the Amorim system. We need that 10 to play. I think he has good quality to play in that. He understands link up play really well. He's played that kind of a role at Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
I think they yeah, and he's won in that position as well. So that he's a great asset to have. He's like off the bench, especially if he can be fit, right? Not like I don't know what is it with Mount. Like people do keep saying that he's just going towards the road of like a Luke Shaw or everything, and he'll just be keep being injured or like I don't understand that. I don't think that that is going to be the case. If we can get like get him to stay fit a little bit more, I think he can be a really good player for us, like a really good value player for us. I know there are question marks about his price as well, and that wasn't a great deal honestly, but I think there is still a good chance Mason Mount comes good at United. We just he just needs the games, like, and even Amorim has shown great trust in Mount. I think he sees something for his system,
Yeah.
which he mentioned in his recent interview as well. So I think there is a good chance Mason Mount plays if he can stay fit. I think he'll be a good value at the 10 role for Amorim.
Yeah. If he can stay fit, that sums up
If
Mason
That's
Mount's
yeah.
career with us.
That's the yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I so want Mason Mount to do well for us because I mean he was Chelsea's player of the year. He is indeed a very good player, and yeah, it just I mean the last time we got Chelsea's player of the year, who was it? Juan Mata, who had a good stint with us, and we also got Matic. I mean he was kind of done by the time he came. Gave us one good season, but yeah, Mason Mount. I was actually like, yeah, I mean, I did kind of wonder where Mason want to play because Bruno never takes a break. But yeah, keeping the transfer fee aside, I was excited for him to come to United. But yeah, I think we can probably count how many games he has even managed to play for us. Did he even play a full 90 for us? I'm not sure. Do you guys know?
We can't remember the last time he played
Exactly.
full
That's so.
90.
Like, no, I'm saying, did he even play a full 90 for United in the couple of seasons he's been here? I don't think so. He's had so many injury issues.
it's quite possible he has. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's entirely possible. I want to highlight one little thing here. Let me just share this very quickly. Yeah, I have brought it up.
Yeah, let me know when
Now.
you're ready.
I think this is the graph. One sec.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of ties into the mount question as well. But you'll notice I've been referring to 3-1-6, 3-1-6, the shape that United use, right? So this is what I'm referring to. Now, typically, you can see we've got the three centre backs lined up. We've got Dalot wide right at the far end of the pitch, and we've got the maybe that's Mazraoui, sorry, and we've got Dalot at left wing back. We can't see him on the screen, but he's on the near side, right? Now the interesting thing is this is against Arsenal, right? So this is adventurous build-up. We're building in a line of 3, 1, and then there's a line of 5, and then the striker, right? So this is kind of different from a lot of Amorim's games at Sporting. He did do this as well occasionally, but it's rare. Now, how do we benefit from this? Now, look at Arsenal's press, right? They've got 3 men narrow trying to block off central progression, but really they're only blocking progression to Casemiro. They don't really have a grip on the line of 3 behind him, right? Because of the excellent position Casemiro's taken up. He's like, okay, I'm going to be adventurous, and he's dropped between the lines. Now Rice has to choose: do I mark one of these guys or do I mark Casemiro? And he chooses correctly to mark Casemiro because that's the easiest pass on. The advantage United had in build up all day long was Lindelof doesn't need to pass to Casemiro. He has the pass to, I believe, Eriksen open. He has the pass to Bruno open, if he can make it, or he can lay it off to Euro and then they can recirculate. Uh, but effectively, we suddenly have so many options to take Arsenal's midfield block out of the game. And that's how this change has really helped us. If you think of it, it's an attacking change from Amorim because he's committing one man higher up the pitch and taking that risk, but it's actually benefiting us in how we build up from deep in the pitch and move higher up it. Of course, this can be prone to risks and maybe more prone to counter attacks, but that's kind of the risk trade-off you have to make, and he's doing it. So I think this is really brave of Amorim. How this ties to Mount. Uh, in this setup, uh, typically you'll see Zirkzee in Eriksen's position and Højlund up top. That's kind of what we did against Sociedad, right? Which means Bruno is always going to be one of the people in this line of three, right? And that leaves one spot, which can either be Mount or Garnacho right now. And the last few games, that's been Garnacho. I would say, looking at the balance of the team, I prefer Garnacho on the right than Mount. I feel like Garnacho can create confusion in opponents about whether they should watch out for wing-back runs beyond them or Garnacho runs beyond them. They don't know what to predict there. So for me, Mount isn't fit enough right now, and he should just be brought on for substitute minutes at the moment. Garnacho is giving us some unpredictability on that right hand side, and I love to see more of that.
Yeah, which is good to see. I think teams also tended to figure out Garnacho a bit on the left, so it's
Yeah.
good to see Amorim switch it up a bit and kind of put that question in opposition's minds, like, hey, what's he going to do now? And also regarding your point about tactics, really Somdeep and even Rowan, when was the last time we had such an adventurous, attacking formation, right? If you look at with Ten Hag or even say, um, you know, even to an extent with Ole or even Jose Mourinho before that, we were like very, hey, we set our defense, we set our lines, and then maybe send a couple of players forward and let them figure it out. But we're going to be rock solid. We're not going to be adventurous at the back. Which, I mean, I get it to an extent. We didn't have very good players who can kind of do this, but we never tried. I felt maybe here and there, maybe, but yeah, it's good to see some kind of this thing back into our side.
It's a different system. Like with Amorim, it all comes from Amorim, right? Like it's a different system, and clearly we can see that the players are uh, trying to understand what instructions are being passed on, and Amorim said it himself that the build up in attack, like the attacking patterns that we are going to play, that he wants us to play, is going to take some time. So what we are basically seeing is like Amorim is just like he's giving them the instructions, like what runs, what options they can do, what runs they can make, or what the midfield, like as Somdeep explained, how Casemiro comes in and he makes Rice think that okay, uh, he can track them, but then again there are three players that are left unattended. So things like these, I think Amorim is trying to instill a lot of attacking patterns in them, which will obviously take some time to settle down in the with the United players.
Yeah.
But uh, and if you look at it from like let's say an Ollie's perspective or a Jose Mourinho's perspective, they tried to instill very different, like because their whole formation was different, their setup was different, their principles of attacking were quite different than what Amorim is trying to put out, right? And what what also makes this a very clear idea, like what where we get clarity is from Amorim's vision. Like Amorim is very clear on how he wants to play, what the attacking patterns are going to be, and as as we go ahead in time and as the players we get more players and they get settled into this formation, we will see exactly what he wants to do on the pitch, and there are signs of that now as well. But again, if you compare it back to the previous managers, even they had their own ways of putting down attacking patterns in our team, which some players got, some players didn't get. So we did see that progress over time. But again, uh, it's the way of execution that will tell us like how exactly Amorim wants to play, and not like it cannot be completely uh, like put into that perspective that okay, we didn't see uh, we didn't see attacking, because even with Ole's football we did see attacking, right? Like we did see how he would like how United would transition and how we would get the goals, right? We saw that how when we saw how many players would make the run, like make the runs. We saw who they would pass to. So there was attacking patterns there as well. But just that Amorim's way of style is different, and as we progress further, we will see more of it uh, getting. And it's obviously like we'll see the distinct differences in both styles.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And yeah, I'm actually, in a way, kind of looking forward to Amram's first full season in charge when he gets like a complete preseason. Hopefully, get some players. I am really not very confident about that, but because I mean, I know Jim talks a lot of crap, but I mean, one thing he is right is that we are really broke. Sure, we're not run out of money by Christmas or whatever cock he was going, but we have been very badly managed. So yeah, I mean, but Amorim did show that he can do well using limited resources. Not exporting was Real Madrid and they could buy whoever they want. They developed players from the academy, identified good targets, and came to the top. I mean, I know they're a top team, but still, Amorim gave them a success when they were in a down period. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Amorim does with this side in the first full season. Obviously, yeah, if he doesn't do well, he's going to be fired, which is the reality of modern football. But we'll see. And talking about getting fired, let's go to Sir Jim's. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, just like sorry for interrupting. Like
Sure.
just before we move on to surgeon, because I know that's like the big another big centerpiece of what happened. I just want to highlight like one thing.
Yeah.
Even before Sociedad got a red card around I think the 60-minute mark, you can see that except for the first 10 minutes, we virtually dominated the game. We were pretty much like in control of proceedings and dominated. And I think it's a reflection of the fact that Sociedad themselves are struggling this season. They're 11th in La Liga, then they're not really doing well themselves either.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of things right against them, and credit to Amorim and the players. I think he's made some changes. The biggest change I think he's made is he's platformed the players better. Everyone's in a position they can shine in more now, and we're seeing the results of that. Having said that, doesn't mean this is necessarily going to translate to performances like this
No,
in the
totally.
Premier League.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would also like to qualify that. I mean, we have seen this time and time again. New manager comes in, platforms the
Yeah.
players well, seems like everything is going well. Then you get
Absolutely.
then they get into the rut of buying players they know, playing players they know, and then they suddenly seem to forget whatever they did. We saw this with Eric Ten Hag, we saw this with Jose Mourinho, we saw this with Van Gaal. Yeah, so I have become very cynical about that. I know Amorim is doing the right things, but we said the same things 3 years ago with Ten Hag's first season. That hey, he's doing the right things. He's kicked out Deadwood. He's bringing in fresh faces. Just turns out the fresh faces were Anthony, who didn't do much. So yeah, I mean, sorry, but I'm going to be a little circumspect on that. But I think but I agree with you. We've seen some good things so far, and that's what gives me some hope, right? So we'll see how Amorim's era era holds up. But yeah, so now we as we move on to the next big thing that happened this week in the world of Manchester United, the club's minority owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has rat in his name. He gave a very expansive, at times honest, at times very, very snaky, to put it mildly, interview. It was interesting. Like, he did name check a few players, saying that they're not good enough. He name checked Casemiro. He name checked Rasmus Højlund. He name checked Andre Onana, Anthony, Jadon Sancho. He name checked all these players as being not good enough for Manchester United, and said that it was players he had inherited. Honestly, a bit of a ballsy statement from Jim, considering that these are guys playing for you, right? I mean, I can still understand name checking Antonio Jadon Sancho. They're away on loan. They probably will be sold in the summer. But, Onana, Casemiro, Højlund, they're playing for you right now. Like, what would it do to their confidence if your boss goes to the media and says that you're not good enough to play for the club, and that, like, everybody, obviously, I'm pretty sure Højlund and Onana know that they're underperforming, and, they're not performing to the level that was expected from them, and all three are very expensive transfers. But for your owner to go say that, in an interview, it just, I don't know, it just boggles the mind. Like, is he trying to curry favor with the fans, saying, hey, look at me, I'm just like you, I hate these players too?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what that is. Like, he 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 he's just trying to be like, maybe that's the angle here, right? Like, trying to be relatable with the fans just to
Yeah.
gain some favor with them. Uh, it's very, because, like, if you look at it from one side, like, someone like who has like a stake in Manchester United, who's like taken control recently, someone of a higher authority, and then what you would expect from them is, like, they go into an interview like this and they don't take names, and they talk like the high level view of things, and then he comes in and he takes the names of players and he points out very specific things, like, even with, like, of course, like, Gary did put the questions to him about Eric Ten Hag and everything, so that is fine. But
Yeah.
again, pinpointing these kind of things, like the players not being good enough and picking specific names, I think that was a bit suspicious. Which, like, which, which makes me wonder, like, how are we going to, like, is Sir Jim gonna just do interviews like this whenever, like, there are fan protests, or is he gonna keep doing them just to give give more
Yeah.
clarity about the club? Like, what is going on here? Like, it really, it feels a little bit off to me.
Yeah, it was also honestly shocking, the way he talked about Rashford. Like, I know Somdeep is chomping at the bit, but like, I mean, yeah, I mean, we all know Rashford is going to be so this summer, right? It's not a secret. We know that. We know Jim hates him, Ruben hates him. They think he's not up to the mark for whatever reasons, which we'll not get into. But the fact that in the interview, when he was asked about Rashford, Ratcliffe says that, yeah, he's doing well at Aston Villa. I wish him all the best, and I hope to basically imply that he hopes to, he said that, Rashford is not coming back to Manchester. He said that, yeah, for whatever reason, he couldn't play well in Manchester, but he's playing well at Villa. I'm happy for him. And basically kind of saying outright, he almost just stopped short of saying outright that, Rashford will never return to the club. And, you know, if you have an asset in world football that you want to sell, right, you want to get a good fee for him, obviously, right? Because a lot of the a lot of our summer activity depends on how many players we sell. And he himself said that, Jim Ratcliffe, that he said that Amarin's budget will depend on how many sales we can make, which I get it. We have a lot of useless players. But to say that, you know, one of your top players who has left the club on loan, you know, ostensibly to recapture his form and who is playing well now, and then you say he's never going to play for the club again in an interview with the BBC, how do you expect to get any transfer fee for him? Like, how do you even expect to get, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 million, whatever you're dreaming that you get a fee for Marcus Rashford? How do you think, why will any club put in that money? They know you want to get rid of him. They'll bid 20 million and say, hey, sell it to us.
That's what the interview feels like. Sir Jim must have had like someone prepare the answers, prepare the answers for him, and like clearly they've not done a very good job of job of preparing that.
I've shared a screen. I've shared a tweet. If you can pull that up.
Yep.
I must say, this feels like a Prison Break episode. It's nice to have Teabag on screen. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about that. Like, okay, about Rashford, but more, there were like other concerning things he said in the interview. I mean, whatever you might feel, whether Rashford should be part of the squad or not, even if you want to sell him, right? You as you said, you want to get the best possible value for him. And I don't think that's going to happen with stuff like this being put out there. Also, it's interesting to me that Rashford somehow not good enough to play for 14th place United, but is playing this well for Villa and is assisting in the Champions League as well. They're through to the next round. Yeah. So, like on the surface of it, I definitely understand that Amorim and Rashford might have differences. Or Ineos might want to sell him because his wages are bloated, which they undoubtedly are.
Yeah.
Just because of how much they are. But in terms of performance, I don't know. Like the purely performance aspect of it doesn't seem clear to me that he shouldn't be part of the squad. However, wanting to sell him, wanting to get those wages off the club's books makes sense. But he shouldn't be minimizing it like he is. I don't see the business sense behind that. But who knows? I want to draw attention to something Gary asked in the interview. So it was an interesting interview. Like, I saw a lot of people praise Gary, and fairly so, for asking difficult questions of Sir Jim. And he did. For instance, the question we see right now, where he asked, why couldn't you spend £40,000 which was going to ex-United players from the 60s, 70s, 80s? Why did you have to take that away from them? That didn't make sense. And then that's a fair question. It's something I think a lot of people have wanted to figure out. Sir Jim just replied saying nobody suggested that, or else I would have supported it. I would have supported the idea of Harry and Bruno doing a fundraising dinner and making that happen. And his follow-up, which I think has been tweeted on social media many times, was that I see it as the fans' money. I see that if we take care of all the pennies coming into the club, then the pounds will take care of themselves.
Yeah, which is such bullshit.
Okay, maybe I get that. I don't, but maybe we can allow that. But then here's the thing: when in the same interview, Gary asked Sir Jim that it took 15 million to get to appoint and then get rid of Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth, right? Firstly, that's 15 million. This is £40,000. Like the magnitude of difference is astronomical. Secondly, the actual cost is way more than 15 million. You have to add the 10-15 million required to bring in Ruben Amorim, right? That's also part of the cost of that whole process. So we're looking at closer to I want to say 30 million, 25 to 30 million. So what Gary really should have maybe asked as a follow-up to this is, when he asked Sir Jim, what about that money spent on those changes? Sir Jim said it was a mistake and we shouldn't have done it, but it's a mistake. We could have continued, but That didn't feel right to me, so I made that change. So 20 million is acceptable because that's a mistake he made.
Yeah.
But 40,000 is somehow, a problem and needs to be cut because that goes to players that aren't him. Even from a purely financial angle, if you leave the emotion out of it, that doesn't like add up to me. It doesn't make sense. One would have saved far more money than the other.
Yeah, yeah. And like you waited 5 months to sign Dan Ashworth. Couldn't you do more, like, do more research on what he wants or what kind of a DOF is going to be? And like, yeah, I'm not saying you have to like Dan Ashworth, right? But you could have done more legwork to see if that's the kind of executive you want to lead United. And fair, if you didn't want him, just don't go for him. And like the thing that bugs me is that it still feels that I know he's making changes, but at some point it feels that maybe they're not still enough footballing people, or maybe that Jim Ratcliffe is being a micromanager, trying to meddle into the decision making affairs, which it does feel like based on the interview that he still has veto power over everything, and he's trying to take a lot of day to day decisions, which I don't get it. You have hired people like Omar Barada and Wilcox and I forget the names, but all these people you've hired, let them take the calls. Like, you're paying stupid money to these people to run the club. And then despite that, if you're going to, still, micromanage and say, hey, I want Dan Ashworth. Hey, I don't want Dan Ashworth. And, do all these kind of things. And I think it was even asked who was involved in the hiring of Ruben Amorim, right? And it was, it said a lot that he didn't name Ashworth in the list of people that he said hired Amorim. So
That was quite the Freudian slip. But he kind of gave away more than he realized by saying that he said Parada and Wilcox, and there was a pause, and then he said and me, and there was no mention of Ashworth. So that kind of reveals like exactly how that decision happened. Right?
And I think when Amorim was hired, if Ashworth was already out of the discussions, that means he never had a chance to stay on, even though he got fired recently. Also, did you see that part, Somdeep, where he said that if he gets the amount of abuse like the Glazers got, he will step down? Like, what did he expect? Did he not know? Does he not know how passionate football fans are? Like, I know you're in your ivory tower as a billionaire, but come on, did you even read the news?
I was actually surprised by that. He started the interview by saying to Gary Neville that one of the things he underestimated was the level of scrutiny you get at Manchester United.
Yeah, like what the heck, bro?
and that really shocked me because he's not a nobody. He's a billionaire. He's somebody who has multiple like stakes in sports, including F1.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure comes with its own pressures. Right. There's a whole movie coming up. So I was definitely surprised by him being unprepared by the level of scrutiny, but also by some offhand statements he made. Like, if he's unprepared for that level of scrutiny, what else is he unprepared for? Begs the question. Like, what else was maybe out of his depth? Secondly, he made a lot of statements like. Like the one you can see on screen right now. Can you see his little tidbit about Nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, why? Like this begs a lot of questions. Why would you say that? Like, that's a club he owns right now. Secondly,
this one don't get about Ratcliffe, man. He's shitting on players in the club. He's shitting on teams he owns. Like, bro, what are you doing? Don't you understand the weight your words carry?
Yeah, the only logical explanation, if there's any that I can see, is with Rashford, with other players at the club like Casemiro, and with what he said about Nice, is maybe these are assets he's desperate to offload, and he's trying to make that happen no matter what. Like, maybe maybe someone like Rashford doesn't want to leave the club because their wages are great and it's a boyhood club. So he needs to create an environment where that's no longer a good option for that person or that club in Nice's case. It's interesting he says this because according to him, the level of football in France isn't high enough. But PSG just destroyed Liverpool
Oh,
over two
forget all that.
legs.
Does he even look at United games? What level of football are you talking about?
Yeah, like Nice are in third, like despite, and it's crazy because in the same interview with Time Sport, he's giving a lot of interviews the last
Yeah.
few days.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, like the level of football there isn't high enough," but also this season is the season we've not been allowed to be involved much with Nice due to UEFA's rules, and this is the season they're having the best year since we joined. They're third, so maybe that tells us something. And those are his own words.
Yeah, yeah. Again, what you'd say or don't say tells a lot, right? Just like Dan Ashworth.
Like I don't know, like this is amazing because is he like a billionaire by mistake or accident? Because I don't get it. Like I'm sure that's not possible. So clearly there's something else going on here that
Yeah.
we're not seeing.
Also another thing that Times journalist mentioned when he was asked, why he bought Manchester United. The journalist again wrote about similarly about what was not said, right? He was saying that Jim didn't say anything about him being a Mancunian or a boyhood United fan for why he bought the club. You remember he said all these things when he was trying to, impress the Glazers and, drum up support for his bid against Qatar. He said all these things about, hey, I'm a Mancunian, I'm a local guy. Even though he tried to buy Chelsea like a couple of years earlier, he made all this show and dance about, being a boyhood Manchester United fan. And he wants to, buy the club to fix everything wrong with it. But here in an actual interview on the record, he refused to say any of that. And I think that and a combination of all these things just tells us he's probably just like any other garden variety billionaire. He wants to own things for simple the power and status and prestige of it, right? Like just imagine you're a billionaire, you have billions and billions and billions of pounds with you. You've probably bought everything there is. You have jets, you have cars, you have everything, right? And so what do you do now? It's the same thing the sheikhs are facing, right? They have all the cars, they have everything that money can buy. So what do they do next? They try to go gobble up sports clubs, sports organizations. There's nothing left to buy, right? And money is practically unlimited. And so I think that's what I feel with Ratcliffe as well. He doesn't know what to do, and he just like, hey, I need to put my money somewhere. And now that he's in too deep with United and he wants to buy the club, maybe that's why he wants to sell Nice to raise money to buy off the rest of the stake from the Glazers before the Glazers put it back on the market for other buyers to buy, and he just gets reduced down to the minority owner with new owners. But yeah, I mean, I think with things that he left unsaid, said a lot about you know his real motivations behind buying a club. But yeah, I think as we wrap up soon, one good thing, not good thing, but at least one positive news that came out during the interview and also in its own press release was the brand new stadium. What do you guys think of that? Are you excited? Finally, for a stadium that doesn't leak, and hopefully rats don't run around, and the only rat is Jim Ratcliffe.
I really like the stadium. I like it's very exciting to have seen the video, what they've put out. I think it's really cool. Lots of like uh, the way it has been designed, the Wembley kind of an entrance, and how it leads up to the trident of
Yeah,
the logo. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to see what they come up. Like the design is very nice.
yeah,
It's like it feels like United are taking the next step in terms of stadium, and which needed to be taken, right? Like it's good. It's a good push Like hopefully we can build a good football team in the upcoming years, which actually fits the stature of that stadium. What's been shown.
Yeah.
That's the yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, me too. But at Somdeep, are you worried that this will affect our transfers because we're probably going to be spending a lot of money, raise a lot of debt for the stadium? So do you think our short-term purchases or activity in the market will be affected because of this? Oh, okay. Somdeep is having some issues, but yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, I am honestly a little worried about all the
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of debt the club has to raise. But hopefully, I think we did see one thing that we saw that there's going to be a lot of mixed use development. In the base of the stadium, a lot of shops and others. I hope the club will be able to generate more income of that. Right now, there's nothing. Like I went to Old Trafford, there's nothing around the stadium. So yeah, so I think yeah, let's see how this goes, and as we get more details, we will uh, you know, talk more on this pod as we get more details about the stadium. But yeah, that's it for us today on this week's episode. We'll be back next week again at roughly the same time. We have two games with Leicester City and I forget the other one. Who are you playing this week? We're playing Leicester City and Nottingham Forest. So yeah, two away games coming up this week. So we'll be back next weekend to give you everything on that. So till that time, enjoy the game tomorrow against Leicester and Nottingham Forest midweek, and hopefully we have another good week with Manchester United. So yeah, that's it from us. See you, everybody.